Roll. Scott Gervais.
Here.
Craig Smith.
Here.
Jessica Burgess here. Cal Martin.
Here.
And Terry Meyer.
Here.
You're all here. We'll start the pledge for us. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair moves that we approve meeting minutes from January 26th. Oh, so I was going to skip that. Thank you, Vice Chair. Meeting is now open to public comment.
Just a couple. Obviously, Daryl Anderson. I live in, I don't know where I live either, or not Erda City. I just caught half of a conversation about a community structure plan, and maybe $1,000 fee for a community structure plan. That seems a little high. I mean, look into it, think about it, but community structure plan is pretty high level, and I think the fees are supposed to be in line with what the expenses to the city are, and so may want to just make sure that those are in line. It may depend on how large of an area that the community structure plan is submitted. The first one that was submitted for Oak Point covered 36 acres and listed one house on it. And that was the stuff there behind the movie theater, yeah, between Diane's movie theater. $1,000 for that seems extreme. So just a thought on that. The other thing that I wanted to comment a little bit is I listened to last city council meeting. I wasn't here, but I've listened to the recording a couple of times. And Erda Estates was one of the discussion topics that came up. And I just kind of wanted to clear a few things up that were said, and also just touch base with the city council as a whole. John mentioned that no one had reached out to John, which he is actually correct. I haven't reached out to John about Erda Estates, but I have significantly reached out to Erda City about Erda Estates. So I met with Rochelle, met with a couple of city council members, and met with 2 of the planning and zoning commission members to really kind of deliver an invitation to Erda City. We're ready to move forward with Erda Estates, and I'm sure Joe is ready to move forward with Hillby Village, but since I didn't ask him if I should comment, it's probably not for me to say, but we're ready to move forward with Erda Estates, and we are absolutely open to having Erda City have some input on that. And you know, we would like to work with Erda City and make sure that we can, whatever we push forward is the best that we can do both for us and for Erda City. I will be honest, I've gotten very mixed signals from Erda City back in that. I went to a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the last one, and I would say, you know, I think the answer that I probably heard most that night was no, that Erda City may not be interested in having those discussions related to Erda Estates, which I can totally respect. If that's Erda City's decision, and I understand it may not be the right time, politically it may not be worth it, you know, whatever other reasons that might be out there, I can honor those. So, you know, doesn't have to be one way or the other, but we're going to move forward pretty quickly. We've waited 3 years. Erda Estates was approved over 3 years ago. And so we don't want to wait a whole lot longer to start moving forward. But John also mentioned that there was a lot of discussions that needed to be had, which intrigued me because I'm kind of interested in what those discussions are, and if there are a lot that we need to have with the city, then I would like to get going very quickly on all of those discussions. But like I said, if it just doesn't work, it doesn't make sense, whatever, for Erda City to have those discussions, that's fine. We'll proceed, you know, with what we have, and happy to do that. But we think we can do better. So hope that makes sense. But you know, we're looking to have input if you want. If not, we can go in. Thanks.
Any others online?
No, sir.
Single to public comment, or will we close the public comment?
Second.
Moving in second, we close public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment is closed. All right, now let's approve our minutes, and we can have these gentlemen come talk to us. Chair moves that we approve meeting minutes from January 26th.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any last discussion on there, corrections? Okay. Been moved and seconded that we approve these minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approved. All right. Sheriff's Office.
Sergeant Caldwell, Sheriff's Office. Let me just pass out the stats here, then we can go through them. You gave me enough for you this time. All right, so this month was just a pretty standard month. The only significant incident we had was on January 9th. Our detectives, along with our major crimes detective, served a search warrant at an address near Erda 36. It's from a previous case where we received information that there were some drugs and stolen property at that location. They wrote a warrant, and we did recover drugs and stolen property. Total details for the month was 85. Pretty standard stuff, a lot of animal problems, bin inspection suspicious, keep the peace. Runaways, we've had a lot of runaways lately. Arrests, there was a total of 7 arrests, and citations was 39. Citations could be either a ticket or a warning given. They're all included as a citation. So, I think that's about all I have. Any questions I can answer? Anything I can take back to Sheriff Brunner for you guys?
Thank you for the good work.
Just a, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let them know. Thank you.
All right. Fire Department.
Fire Chief Kevin Nunn, and I didn't bring any paperwork because, as to echo the Sheriff's Department, it was a really standard month. We had 8 calls total in Erda. There were 2 MVAs, which were minor, 3 EMS calls, 2 canceled rounds. So
It's an MVA.
motor vehicle accident. So it was, like I said, and they were both very nothing to. So I know that as we set up just before the meeting, Terry and Jennifer and I are going to get together next week to talk about impact fees. So that's something that's been unresolved for a year now. So we'll actually get that going. And any questions I can answer? Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Treasurer report. Okay.
Before I get into the regular stuff, there's a couple things I want to bring up. One, whoever talked with Morty, got him to do that contract and didn't fill out. We can get that to the account. And another thing is running along on checks. Projection of more checks. And also, this is a heads up. In our budget, we had 90,000 anticipated, just a guess for permits. Well, there it is in January, we've already spent over 60,000. It takes care of itself, but down the road, as proceed for June, we're gonna have to increase that amount. So I said, it
Not 90,000 for,
would be like inside and all that type of stuff, it's still be all.
You're saying we'll have to do a line item adjustment on income and expenses there.
It's all budgeted in, just says 90,000 for permit.
okay.
Like I said, it's got enough money to cover, but we just, the whole budget was a guesstimation. We have no clue how much is coming in, we have no clue how much is going out. Now we're getting a better idea of how much everything is actually costing. And the, won't say that part, the thing about the permits is, I would consider this the small time. And now when spring gets going and it's gonna be ramping up, so it's gonna be kicking into high gear, so we just need to be aware of that. And like I said, down the road, it's just gonna rush. Can't feel that. Now for deposits, deposited for building permits, $7,167.60, that's last week. I transferred into checking $40,653.51 to cover our roads for November, December. And here are the checks in the amounts. We have CD Tech for Google, $280, accounting, $750, the treasurer bond, $245, city planner, $4,000, John Briggs legal, $5,000, Ward engineering, $850, Fuller County Road Department, $40,653.51, and clerk salary, $869.81, for a total of $52,648.32. We currently have $116.86 on credit card. 45 items, Walmart, folders, and office supplies, $63 for stamps, $8.82 for the monthly Microsoft subscription.
There you go. All right, resolution 23-04, approving the appointment of an appeal authority. This is a person or an entity or a business that could serve as the appeal authority for when an appeal is filed for a decision that the zoning administrator makes for the city. So we have a fill in the blank here. We ought to discuss that tonight. Come to a resolution as to who that should be. We should fill this in and pass it. If not, just talk to John and see if we can delay this. If you talk to him. Trying to get a hold of another candidate today, but I failed, so I probably should call that. Kind of want to do it. I'd really like to talk to anybody before building it, so.
What kind of background is this? Is it, we're talking about just having one person, not a council or?
Yeah, I think John is proposing a person. I think Craig knows somebody also, an individual.
So John proposed that we have it be one person. He knows an attorney. He said he'd be willing to do it and has experience in this type of law. When we were here last time, Sheldon Birch was here and he got word back to Jed Hansen. You know Jed?
Sounds like I do, but I can't place it.
Lives just off of Church Road. Down by where Slingerland lives. He's an attorney. He does intellectual properties. He's a trial attorney. and he's willing to do it for free. He doesn't have any land use experience to speak of, but he's very familiar with the appeals process. So he said he's willing to do it for free. I've talked to him some about it. I know Jess would like to talk to him about it. I'm sure he'd talk with anybody about it, but he said he's willing. Are you online with us, John?
No, John is not online right now.
As far as tabling this again, as long as we don't have an application come in, an appeal come in, there's no rush. We suspect there'll be an appeal coming in shortly. A little surprised it's not already arrived. The two problems with Jed, the great thing about him is he's local and he's willing to serve and do it for free for us. So those are two great things. And he is an experienced trial attorney. That's a really good thing. The downside is he goes out of town. When he has a trial, for instance, he's going to be gone for 3 weeks in Florida, leading end of this week or first of next week. So he'll be out of the state for 3 weeks. That's one downside to him, and he doesn't have a much land use experience. Appeals are typically more about was the law and ordinance followed than over the actual land use. And he said, I'm sure he could, on any one appeal, he could familiarize himself with the land use in our code pretty easily.
And kids just go on the record saying it's not a deal breaker for me, but it's a minor concern for me. Local. I prefer not to know personally anybody on the council or planning commission. I don't want him to have anybody in his ear who makes his decision based on what he knows and what he's read. That's what I would. But you got to balance that with some other benefits that you get from having to be local, and some people are able to be impartial. Again, I'd like to talk to any of our candidates. So I think we ought to, unless anybody has any objections, I think we ought to take this for a while. Maybe more discussion we want to have on this.
Would they be willing to come in this evening? Just spend a few minutes telling us what they might or might not know, or what they might think about doing this job.
We can ask them, got a guy on the hook that wants to do it for free, hate to pay too much.
I think where we don't have an appeal in front of us right now, tabling this is probably a good idea.
Okay.
But it also gives all of us a chance to reach out and talk to them and see how we individually all feel about it.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second to table resolution 23-04. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to resolution 23-05. Amending the supplemental fee schedule. This is for building permits and the like. We've got 3 proposed changes under subdivision review. I'll list this off real quick here. These used to be listed as per IBC, but as we got reminded by Jen and Rochelle that the IBC doesn't outline what these should be, and so we've got to come up with some numbers. We've got a concept plan for major subdivision, preliminary plat for standard and major, and final plat for standard and major. One thing we might consider adding to this tonight is I've already forgotten. Yes, see, Daryl, help me. What does that stand for?
Community structure plan.
And then there was also so she says CSP and project plan stages. That plan stages for the CSP. Sound right?
Should have gone on that email right beforehand.
That's what it says. CSP is an overall project master plan, and the project plan is the concept plan stage for each phase. So we have the project plan is part of the CSP.
Rochelle suggested $1,000 for that. She said that's the county's fee, what they charge.
1,000 for CSP and 750 for project plan stages. So I assume if it has 4 stages, 4 times that.
Yeah, first stage.
So how do we arrive at $1,000?
Just what the county has.
Wonder how they arrived at that. What has to be done for that to be reviewed? Would that just be Rochelle reviewing it, or?
I would bet Rochelle and Ensign to some point to see if it complies, how it fits, how it works. I've never been part of one, so I'm not entirely sure.
So this would indicate that it would take them somewhere around 6 or 7 hours to do that. Does that sound right?
It'd be 6 or 7 of the city planners' hours. If you heard that, of engineers' hours.
And engineers, it also, they do go before the planning commission, so you're gonna have to have your planner at the planning commission for that. Depending on the planning commission meeting, depending on what else is happening, there might be 5 things there that night, or there might be just one, so you're gonna,
Pretty much got to count on 2 hours for planning commission.
you're looking at nearly 2 hours in a planning commission meeting. Whether it's,
Plus review, plus prep for that.
So it would take that long.
that's a good question. We don't know for sure yet. We do know that was the fee that the county is currently charging.
Wait, not to, we always change it later if we got information.
Right here on the disclaimer, we can change it anytime we want.
Should we wait on it, you think, or should we do it?
If we wait on it and we get one of these come in, we can have a charge for it. So I would be in favor of adopting some amount. And if it's modification later.
That's why I was hoping John would be on, so we, I don't know if we could say actual expenses not to exceed $1,000. On one hand, I honestly doing that, if it exceeds $1,000.
Yeah.
You'd been better to go with actual expenses.
That's the kind of thing we can't collect money for our folks. Which time it's gonna take.
Yeah. And an application has to be paid up front in order to.
Or Michelle's recommendation.
Shouldn't there be a schedule for a minor subdivision?
Minor subdivisions do not have to go through that process. If it's less than, if it's 4 lots or less, they don't have to go through that process. So that's why
That
they're
explains that.
placed for right now.
What else do we need to talk? Well, we need to talk amounts for these other things, concept plan, preliminary plat, final plat. On here, we have 750 for the concept plan, 750 plus 50 per lot for preliminary plat, standard and major. And 1,000 plus 50 per lot for final plat, or standard. Or major. Or standard and major. It's the same.
Under an annexation application.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's the annexation application for the house.
Well, in addition, we need to add a community structure plan. Rochelle advised $1,000 for that. And what was the other one? Stage.
Project plan stages.
Project plan stages for $750 apiece.
So say those again.
Community structure plan, 1,000. And then the stages that go along with that plan, 750 each. She calls this project plan stage.
This is the plan review. Community structure plan review. And that was 1,000. And the other one was,
Project plan stages.
and that was 500.
750.
Seems to me like personally recommending this house to us is the one that's going to be us or less the workload's going to take. So
Yeah,
I can't argue with the amounts, so.
and they're very much in line with what Ensign suggested also originally, other than we didn't know some things. And that's part of Rochelle's bill, has been a pretty big bill, but when you start getting the subdivisions fees in, that will pay for her bill very quickly. She's already spent,
We're not paying her and Ensign.
well, we will be paying her and Ensign.
Just
That's
because
what you're
it's
saying.
out, we are averaging $11,000 a month between the two.
Between the two of them, yeah. There's been some big parts of her bill that we're not gonna receive any money from.
This is the slow part.
And, the conditional use permit for the school, she spent a lot of time on that. And we will receive no money from the school district for that. Beacon House, she spent a lot of time on that. We'll receive most likely no money back there in any kind of fees. So it's hard to say exactly where we're gonna wind up with her, but when they start doing these subdivisions, yeah, $750 or $1,000 and $50 a lot. That's a lot of money going back in to help cover some of those expenses. That's where it really, all that money we laid out kind of up front there will start coming back.
Like I said, it's got plenty of money to pay these bills. It's just we got to guesstimate from filling the budget at that time. And that's what-
Yeah, it's gonna be hard guessing, because we have never had a subdivision, a major subdivision, or even a standard subdivision really, other than Zeller's come through yet. So it'll be, we're still shooting in the dark, just like Erda explained, we don't know exactly where it'll be at. We might have to adjust, hopefully we can adjust things down in later. We just don't know yet.
I think we ought to get some fees on the schedule and adopt something, right?
I agree.
Any more discussion on the amounts? Are we leaving anything out? Okay. I'll call it to a vote with some amendments there, so.
All right.
I'm gonna move that we adopt resolution 23-05 with the fees outlined in the attachment and amending and adding as follows: community structure plan, $1,000, and plan stages for $750 for each stage. We'll need a second.
I can second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded that we adopt 23-05 as amended. Last discussion. Roll call vote. Terry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, votes yes. Craig?
Yes.
And Scott?
Yeah.
Got a unanimous vote for resolution 23-05. We do have Erda City Sewer Master Plan and Sagewood Drive Earthway Trunk Line discussion. Jen, that master plan had, like some signature lines and things. Did you have a current one of those?
I did not get anything on that.
Oh, okay. So I asked you to put it on the agenda, but I didn't send her the document.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Jen, I didn't send it to you either.
Okay. I thought about reaching out. I was like, do you want me to send anything out?
So that means that document wasn't put online.
No.
So
It's
I'm
not
gonna-
required to either.
It's not.
No. It's just notification on the agenda is required.
So if we adopt it tonight, we have to post it on the meeting and we could go.
Yeah, also, if we adopt it tonight, we need to send minutes and a recording of this meeting
That's right.
to,
I remember.
to the state.
This is the problem I have with this whole process for this. It says that it had been being negotiated with the city for months. And yet, there was no representative reports ever given to the council. Which means none of the council has appointed to make appointments to the committees. They're supposed to report back to the council, so the council can advise and guide to the end results.
Well, that's not
They're
entirely
not
true.
supposed to run autonomous of the council. Just like tonight, what you're saying is, the way I see it is, as soon as they had a meeting for the thing, somebody should have reported to the council and said, okay, here's what's going on. Stansbury wants to be the deliverer of all sewer for the city of Erda. And then there could have been a debate on who determined that. The land use adopted it on their own. To me, it's a utility. That would have been the first discussion I would have had. The saying it didn't belong in the land use, that it's a utility, and we had to develop a utility. But the main thing that I've got is, this is really between the developer and Stansbury. Why are we guaranteeing Stansbury, our residents, for the rest of their, any coming in, that they will be the supplier of their sewer? And they have to hook up to them. And also, what about the ones that are already there? There's a thing that used to be 100 feet you had to hook up. I think they changed that to 300 feet. So if you're coming by an existing home and that sewer line is there, if it's within that bed, then they have to hook up to it by the county health.
State code, and it's 300 feet, but only after their system fails.
But see, this is what I mean. These are talks you should have been having months ago that you and Craig, or you and Jess have been doing with them.
Well, the city
Saying
had
that the
been no
city is
report.
representing it, when it wasn't, it was a committee. It wasn't the city being represented, it was a committee.
To say that there's been no reports is inaccurate, Gary. We've talked about this multiple times. They originally came and thought that all of Erda should be a quarter acre lots. And we had that discussion in a meeting.
I don't remember one representative report coming from Stansbury on sewer.
We've had that discussion in meetings.
Which meeting?
We'd have to go back and look, but we all talked about it, and when we met with them, yeah, we told them that we didn't feel what they originally thought their vision of Erda was what we.
So what we're saying is for the future, I mean, what if the next council or something down the line is in a position that they can supply sewer and water to their own residents? So then that money comes back to the city instead of us giving it to somebody else to provide them services.
Well, maybe we don't adopt this master plan.
So I don't know why the city's even involved, because this whole thing is between the developer and the Stansbury district.
The city's involved because the state requires that any line in a city be approved by the city.
They got building permits for that, right? There's a process for that to run, just like the
No.
gas lines and everything else.
The State Department of Water Quality, if you're gonna put a sewer line in a city, the city has to approve that sewer line. And that's what we're here doing. And we sent you everything that had to do with it. Sent you the contract, sent you the maps,
Yeah, right, when it's time for the ink to dry.
Well, when did you want? Before it existed?
No, at least a couple months ago, where, see, this is the thing, that's why we have public
This-
comment, this is why
this-
we have public comment too, so the
When-
community can get involved, so they can come, and as we're discussing certain issues that affect them, they can come to a meeting and say, okay, here's what I think about this sewer line coming in, or this going that. If we just cubby hole it till the last minute, say, okay, here it is, and just like, okay, we approved it, put it online for everybody to see. Why couldn't the community have involvement to come and talk about it?
I think it's been well known that Oak Point has a sewer line coming to it. We
But
talked
not
about
as
it.
the city, not saying that it's gonna be the city's.
It's not the city sewer line, it's Stanford Park sewer line.
Well, that thing says, go to the city sewer line.
It's inside Erda City, so we have to approve it. We can deny it, we can say, no, we won't allow it, and likely wind up in a lawsuit with Oak Point for denying it at this point. We can try that.
I thought it was just because they want to go with a bigger line. I thought the smaller line was already approved.
The smaller line, it still has to be approved by the state. Whatever happens, the state, if there's a sewer line goes in, it has to go through the state. And, yeah, we sat down, we talked about how many homes could potentially be in Erda at maximum build out. And
So we're giving them.
they're putting in a bigger sewer line than just to feed Oak Point. They are, but that's only good plan.
So does that mean that if the city decides to do their own sewer line, they can't, because we've already promised it to stand there?
I don't believe so, but I don't see in my lifetime for a city ever having a sewer system.
That's why I think we should just do it development by development. Oak Point put in their deal, then that gets approved, then the next one puts in their deal, then that gets approved, not lump sum it all together.
That's horrible planning. When you put in a sewer trunk line, you should put in a line big enough to feed everything around it. Not put one in just to feed that and then come back in and put another
If
one
that's the
in right
case, you
next
go
to it.
around one, because there's nothing around it. It's an
I've-
empty lot.
Well, you can think that, but Erda's a big place. And if you're gonna run a sewer line up through there, you've got a lot of other ground that would most likely connect into it.
So,
There's 160 acres directly south of Oak Point.
but the fact still remains, you guys self-appointed this to your committee. It goes through the council for us to appoint you to do this.
Me and Jess aren't the only ones that met with them. Scott's also met with
I was there too.
them. They've reached out to several of us.
Isn't that what we're doing here though, is we're bringing what they proposed to the council?
To sign off, it's the final approval. It's not the process up to this point.
If you're worried about that, let's not approve it tonight. Let's put it on the agenda for next week and invite public comment, so that we make sure we know what people are thinking.
I'd like to hear from a few more people on it before I make a decision. To get more comfortable voting on it yet. Telling what people in Erda are thinking.
Yeah.
I know what I'm thinking, but it doesn't matter what I'm thinking.
I'm good with that.
No, but vote for what?
I don't sound
What
like
they
they
want.
get three over there on the apple. That's what we're throwing up to the meetings. We've had three councils.
Well, but we can't approve it without, the council has to approve it.
Three votes right there.
Well,
We don't know how we're gonna vote. But it did make good sense to me. You know, especially when you consider, I think what scares me is that the state's gonna come in at some point, whether it's 10 years from now or 20 years from now, and say, everybody in Erda has gotta close off those septic tanks, and they've gotta have a sewer system.
So then they give us a grant, we can probably get a federal,
Well, I'm afraid they
federal and
won't.
state grant to have
I
that
don't
done.
think we can count on that.
I've heard horror stories where
Yeah, I don't think we can. And this is not a lot more money just to put in a bigger pipe compared to the overall project.
Well, my concern too is, like I said, where it's gonna be done, if it gets within 300 feet of certain malls, then they're gonna be forced to.
that was a major concern of mine, but
Yeah.
it does say that it's only after there's
Yeah.
septic tank is
I,
connected.
I lived in Grantsville, 157 East Main, in the early 90s. And a house that was built in the 30s or 40s. Sewer line had been running down Main Street in Grantsville for decades. And that house was still on septic tank. To this day, it's still on septic tank. But when that system fails, they will have to hook into the sewer line.
They'd be crazy not.
They'd be crazy not to. I have a track hole, I put in septic systems. They're talking about putting a sewer line next to my house or by my property to feed Majestic View and Sunset Acres. When my septic system has an issue, I'm hooking onto that sewer line because it'll be cheaper for me, even with my own equipment, to hook into that sewer line that will be put in a new system. But yes, I'll have to pay $20 a month, and it will never pay for what it costs me to do my own system. Doing it all myself.
If this had the immediate requirement of all septic tank people to connect to it, I'd be all up in arms against it.
So,
Since it's only after condemnation, then
Yeah.
I guess I'm okay with that requirement. I don't love that requirement, but I'm okay with it. I feel like that is a compromise type requirement that might keep the state and the feds off our backs should the time come.
Well, I think we should put the document online, let the community have a chance to read it, go over it.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea.
That's good. I thought I had sent this to Jen, it was gonna be online, but that didn't happen, so it's good to.
I made a mistake of hitting print, and then I realized it was 46 pages.
It's pretty color.
Did you unplug the printer?
It's not good.
Did you print all of it?
Okay, well, I think I have a motion
$70 down.
to table this tonight. Do we have a second?
Second. Third.
Move to a second. Unanimous that we table this. We'll do an official vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Sewer master plan was tabled. Okay, council representative reports.
All right, Terry's made a good point that some of these reports haven't exactly happened the way they should have. And so I'm gonna try to do a better job of reporting what some of these other groups are doing. In the small business development, there's a grant available. It's up to $5,000. I talked about this last week. The website's up and going. You can get your applications at the county website. We're going to try to get a link on the Erda City website. So anyone who wants to apply for these grants for small business, employee retention, supplies, that'll be available to them on our website also. Another update, I feel like I really have not been giving, and it's been a mistake, is planning commissions. I've been attending these and watching them, but I haven't been reporting what's happened in our planning commissions. So that'll happen every meeting from now on. Last week, our planning commission approved the Zeller subdivision and their conditional use permit for their private road. And coming up in the next meeting, they really don't have anything on their agenda as of right now, so they are going to do another work session on planned community and see what they can come up with there in that kind of a zone. I would hope that they would rename it. That would be the first thing to do to make it a little bit better. But they're gonna work on that unless there's unless a lot of something else comes on their agenda, and then they'll bump it back. But as of right now, they don't have anything else. So they were gonna do another work session and see what they can come up there.
Decisions on the Zeller subdivision and road, the authoritative for that, or does that come before the council as well?
They have approval rights on that, so they have approval, they will come to us.
Good.
We also gotta remember that their own body, we should kind of guide them, persuade them, and do any of that type of stuff. They should make their decision. That's why we appoint them to make their own decisions, not go by what we prefer or what we can.
I have a lot of faith and confidence that we will feel this and develop something that, or not develop something that's totally their choice, but have the discussion and.
One thing I meant to do this week, and I didn't, because I'm really busy at work, but, we talked about possibly doing a meeting, an open public meeting with the council and the planning commission, and just kind of doing a training and like what's going on in Erda, kind of get built, how everyone's doing, make some plans together. Between us and them.
I think that could be productive.
Kind of FYI.
Yeah, the state ombudsman's great for coming out doing those trainings, helping out. We'd already talked about having the planning commission do a question and answer with the ombudsman. That might be a great meeting for all of us to attend.
So can we replace one of these meetings with that meeting, or one of their meetings with that meeting?
We wouldn't want to bore them with all of our stuff, and they wouldn't want to bore us with all of their
Yeah.
stuff. And I think it's gonna have to be an additional meeting. And maybe Craig suggested maybe we put it before the 5:30 or something.
I think it probably work best as a work meeting. And it's a little less formal, a lot easier to throw questions, answers around.
Yeah.
And it'd be an open public meeting where everybody be invited to it.
If you make it to a 5:30.
Yeah, I get off at 5, so. Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to set that up.
I have a couple of things.
Yes, please.
So Terry and I have a couple of meetings this, coming up with emergency management, and then UDOG's having another in Valley Highway meeting.
That's it, Mark, to go over the environmental impact statement.
Yeah. And I've been, that just keeps going through my mind, this environmental impact statement. But money keeps coming into it. How do we just looking at, how does this plan, or this plan, or this plan impact the environment of Erda? Or the environment of, West Gorilla City, or leave the money out of it, but anyway. There'll be one more chance to try and sway him, keep him on sheep lane.
I think it's already a
And I think so too, because of money.
Yeah, and I think it's funny you mentioned that it's an environmental impact statement. You shouldn't be talking about money if you're looking at the environment, but it seems to be a big part of the conversation.
Economics shouldn't, it's not an economic impact statement. Anyway, the other thing is, code enforcement, what am I? What did I do?
You were out here.
I just, I like to
We are code
did one
enforcement
bullet.
officer.
officer. Okay, so
If
when do I know when I have to do something?
If and when we have something to enforce, and you could bring one up as officer, I'm sure you could bring up anything you want to enforce.
Oh, there's dozens of them.
You can take your tape measure and go around to everybody's yard, measure the weeds.
You're basically gonna have John draft a letter for you to sign. Nice.
But the EOC meeting is gonna be on water runoff. Everybody's worried about what the snowpack being at 200%. And what's gonna happen if it comes in on one, so that's
That's been a concern of mine.
there's gonna be a lot.
Well,
I think there's gonna
The
be
EOC, remind me of what that is?
Emergency Operations Center.
Oh, the emergency event.
So they talking like settlement, flooding again, is that kind of what they're
The
worried
whole
about?
valley,
The whole valley?
well, that's 200% snow, they're just
That'd be a good problem to have.
like in Stockton, Virginia, you burn scars and stuff like that. Be proactive instead of reactive.
which is a good plan.
Yeah.
Nothing would tickle me more than to get to April 27th and we still have 200%. I'm afraid we're not gonna get there, but yeah, it was quite the deal back in the 80s.
What was snowpack at in the 80s?
Not 200%, not even close.
The problem then was it heated up.
But
It
it was
all came
high.
down at once.
It was high. It was-
So if we
it was
get
more
that
like
85, 90-degree day, we could be in trouble.
In 83, it was cold and wet until Memorial Day weekend, and then it turned off to 100 degrees within days. And all that snow came down fast.
You don't remember that.
I actually do.
Well, you don't. What were you, 5?
I wish. Jess might have been 5. I was one of those lucky kids riding around the back that picked up with sandbags.
Oh,
Scott was a rabbit then.
no.
No,
He came back.
Scott was one of the guys driving the pickup.
Did you go up that night with me and Roger? Throw those sandbags?
In the ditch up
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
I came down Bishop Hill, was looking for us.
Yeah.
That was you and Chris Zeller, wasn't it? I think it was. You know, Chris's mother was panicked. It got dark.
There's a lot of water came down the cold way.
I think we moved on to general comments.
Okay, so I'll wait until someone says, I need your signature. And then will I go take those papers to those people? Would it be better if I did that?
If you take.
That is
papers
your-
to people, you should bring someone.
It's your office, you can conduct it.
There are places where that'll probably be helpful, try to smooth some neighbors over. I know you're good at that. There are a few places where,
Get thrown up.
no, just having the attorney mail it with your signature will work best. I suspect.
So let it be written, let it be done.
Thanks for being willing to do that, Scott.
Happy anniversary.
You'll not be missing any more meetings, will you?
Well, I actually knew that was gonna happen.
Okay, all right.
Not that I could have swayed anybody's vote, but
We're all
Yeah.
kind of looking at each other like, well, he's not here.
I think it was
Would you be okay with that?
I knew that would come.
not only the best option, but, yeah. Good. Okay, anything else? Will we adjourn?
Okay.
We adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?